I'm Charlie now, flight officer during World War II. Well, I was born in Cincinnati. I lived in College Hill. College Hill was a nice middle-class suburb, part of Cincinnati. I lived there, went through College Hill Elementary School. Then I went to Hughes High School, and Hughes High School, we had to take the either a bus or the streetcar. And that was quite a trip. I remember during the flood of '37, they didn't give us too many days off. They built a trestle over North Side, and we were able to get to Hughes High School. But that was my early years. Following graduation from Hughes High School, I went to Ohio State. I was there in 1941, 42. And after Pearl Harbor, I lived in a fraternity house. Almost all of the guys were gung-ho to get going and get into the action. And so was I. And we all enlisted. I enlisted in the Army Air Corps at that time. Following my enlistment, I was sent to, that was in November of '42. I was sent to Indianapolis, Indiana, and that was just a short stay. They gave me a physical there, stayed overnight. Then they sent us by train to Keesler Field in Biloxi, Mississippi. In Mississippi, we had basic training. From there, they sent us to Classification Center, and that was in Nashville, Tennessee. At Nashville, Tennessee, it was decided if you were to become a pilot, a navigator, or a bombardier, all leading to a commission. I was selected to become a pilot, and following that classification center, I was sent to Maxwell Field, Montgomery, Alabama. From Maxwell Field, I moved on to primary flight school, and that was in Lakeland, Florida. We had the PT-17 Stearman, and I did fine, went right through. One experience I had, which was kind of interesting there, after I had soloed, and we also, incidentally, as the picture shows, all of us soloed in one day. This guy had us all going out into an auxiliary field and soloing that one day. Well, we didn't know the other guy was doing that. They had it arranged back at the Lakeland airfield there for us to be doing something else. So it was only at the end of the day we found that all 6 of us had soloed that day. So it made the newspapers. It made the newspaper locally. It made the Cincinnati paper here. And it's said to be a record. And I don't know, I haven't heard anybody who's broken a record. Having all of us do that, we were on our own, did most of our time flying solo. One time I got my one experience there that was an experience. I was over at the auxiliary field coming in for a landing, and the throttle's on your right side there, and it slides back. And I tried to slide it back and only came back halfway. So that meant the RPMs were only dropping about half. So I came in, but the problem was you couldn't get the tail down. You were going too fast. You can get your front wheels down and you can roll, but you can't get the tail down. So I went around, I think the 3rd time, or maybe it was the 4th time. Finally came in, and don't you know, I was able to get the tail down just enough, and off to my left was a big field, open field, well cut and everything. I just swerved around over there, made a great big circle, came right back up to where all the instructors were standing Incidentally, the instructors had given me the signal. What they wanted me to do was they gave me this, which meant when you come in, you cut the engine and you come in dead stick. So I didn't care too much for that because one little false mistake, if you came in too short, who knows? So it was that last time that I did that. I brought it in and brought it up to them, pulled right up to them and cut the engine. They all said, "Good job, Charlie, good job, good job." So that was primary. After primary, I moved on to basic at Bainbridge, Georgia. And I was there a very short time, and things were going okay. And they called me in along with a couple of other fellows and said, "We have a position that'll lead to a commission, but it's not a navigator, it's not a bombardier, and we don't know anything about it. All we can do is tell you there's a vacancy, and what they want is someone who has had some pilot training." So we, three of us there, said, "Okay, we'll do it, we'll do it." So they sent us then down to Moody Field, Valdosta, Georgia, and we sat around there for a couple of weeks, did nothing. But we did see that's where the Germans prisoners were. And it was, I'll tell you, when you saw those guys come marching down Main Street doing the goose step, you know they were pretty darn well trained. And it wasn't, before our 2 weeks were up there, they had stopped it. They asked them to quit it. So, well, after that, the next thing you know, we're shipped over to Fort Myers, Florida, at Buckingham, and it's an aerial gunnery school. And we thought, well, wait a minute, what are we doing here in a gunnery school? And they just told us, well, we can't tell you, but you'll find out. So we concluded the gunnery school at Buckingham, and we took a bus over to Boca Raton, Florida, which is on the Atlantic coast. Well, when we arrived at Boca, we found out pretty quick. The whole place was fenced in with guards. The classrooms were all guarded with fences. Well, it was all about radar. And what we were going to do was train for the Black Widow P-61 Black Widow night fighter. And to do that, in a night fighter, the pilot needed some help. And that's where you came in. If you made contact with the enemy, then you took over more or less and told the pilot what to do. Increase the speed so much, gentle turn to the starboard, harder in the turn, those kinds of things, which you directed the pilot up to that enemy aircraft in front of you. You had to be very careful that you didn't overshoot him and go underneath and you're dead. So it was a very interesting experience. Upon conclusion of my P-61 training at Boca Raton, I received a commission as flight officer. That was kind of funny. We had several guys who were married in the group. They all became second lieutenants, the rest of us flight officers. So we thought that was kind of funny. We were waiting to be shipped over to the Pacific. Well, nothing happened. And the next thing you know, they come in and they say, "You're going back to Boca Raton." And, well, what for? "Well, you're going to train for the B-29. Well, what we found out later, the feeling then was that we might have to invade Japan, and they wanted all the B-29s they could get. So that was the reasoning. So we went through the training then again at Boca Raton. The war, part of the war at least, ended while I was in Tucson. So things they didn't really let up after the war ended. We were still flying, except at Alamogordo. But we flew at Smokey Hill. It was the headquarters for the group at that time. Well, from there, went to Wright-Patterson and was on my way out. So those were my days. Someone was asking me, well, how did you feel about the whole thing? I said, well, I went in because we wanted action. I missed action, and I'm sorry for that, but I'm happy that I'm here and everything's okay. So that's just the way it ended. And if you were in the service at any length of time then, you were told, what you were told, they tell you what to do and that's it. I mean, you don't question authority back in those days. So that was pretty well it. So that was my World War II experience.